G'day, Stu from UAVfutures here, and today, well, we're going to be looking at one of the most anticipated drones on the market. We are looking to the successor of the original EMAX TINYHAWK. I absolutely love this drone. I have bought so many of these. Today, these just came fresh off the press. The NDA is finished. We can finally talk about it. We have the EMAX TINYHAWK 2. Now, this bad boy has taken a lot of design cues, of course, from the original one. It's done some upgrades, things like the camera, all that sort of stuff. What we're going to do, we're going to put it on the bench. We're going to break it down and find out, is this the right little drone that you want to get for Christmas? Where's its pitfalls? Where does it succeed? All that sort of stuff. And overall, just have a lot of fun. Now, before we get started, I'm going to give a huge shout out to EMAX because I feel like they are one company that's making cheap, reliable drones that just get people into the hobby. You take their products and they just work. You don't need to have the biggest RC knowledge to get in. Like, take their Interceptor. If you haven't seen that video, go watch that. Just driving around in those cars, all that sort of stuff. The original TINYHAWKs, they just get people flying. And that's exactly the mission that I believe on UAVfutures. FPV changes people's lives, the friends you meet, the places you explore, just flying around with those drones or driving those cars in FPV is life-changing, and EMAX is really big at getting people into the hobby. So straight away, I just want to say hats off to them. Now, what we're going to do, let's stick this thing on the bench, break it down, look at the text and the specs, find out, is it right, should you be getting it, upgrades, all that sort of stuff, and overall, let's have some fun. So if I stick it on the scales as a bit of an overview, take your guesses. The original one, which I'll be referencing quite a lot right here, is coming in, and let me tear this off. Alright, so that was 28 grams, and if we put the new one on here, and of course this is without your batteries, this is coming in at 31 grams. So even though the frame is a little bit chunkier, which we'll talk about, and that's a huge upgrade for me, it's 3 grams heavier, and also we now get a 300 milliamp 2S battery that comes with it. Some little spares that I should mention too. You get 4 spare props, which you didn't get when you were first buying the TINYHAWKs, and also you get a 1 and 2S charger, which simply charges by USB, and it can charge 2 1S batteries and 2 2S batteries at a time. So it is definitely pretty cool if you just want to get a little kit. You might not have a charger at home, you just want to pick something up that you know is going to work. Well, this bad boy absolutely has you covered. Now, another big plus too for a lot of people, it binds up to FreeSky, which is arguably the most common radio manufacturer out there. It's using D8 or D16. So yeah, if you've got already one of those radios or somebody that uses that protocol, well, you're in luck because that is what this is going to bind exactly up to. And then you can see the size difference as well. And you can see here the struts, so these ones are quite thin if this is in roof cam on the original one, but on the new one, the updated one, this is one complaint we did have. These struts look much, much more robust. So I think this thing is going to take a hell of a better beating. And then if you flip it over, some other parts you will notice is they no longer have a battery piece on the bottom, like a little plastic part. We have 2 little rubber strips, so that's parts taken from the TINYHAWK S, and that means you can put a 1S or a 2S battery, which is a huge difference for this one. 1S for indoors, 2S maybe for outdoors. And then flipping it over the other part too, a big complaint a lot of people had with this one was you couldn't adjust the camera angle on the original TINYHAWK. But this bad boy, we have not only a really, really good camera in here, but you can adjust the camera angle. You just simply tighten or loosen this screw and you can put it to whatever angle you see fit. Let's quickly go through some of the components before we go fly it around in some really, really cool places. We have, flipping it over, we'll start at the outside in. One big part is you have these little LEDs under here, which I'm going to talk about first. So, and they actually respond to your motor inputs. If you're giving it some throttle, all that sort of stuff. I've got a flat battery on here. But if you give it some throttle, the LEDs in this bad boy are going to light up. I really like the idea of flying around in these LEDs. They only come in red though, which I wish we could, I don't know, get some different colors or something, because I imagine EMAX TINYHAWKs are the most fun when you are versing your friends flying around, and if you could see the different colors, it's like, think of Star Wars. If everyone had the same color lightsaber, yeah, it's okay, but if you're Samuel L. Jackson, you get the purple one or whatever, man. You want those different colors. I think that'll look really cool flying through the air. Of course, keeping on the components, they're getting distracted here. 4-blade props. Underneath that, we have some tiny little motors. They're 16,000 kV, and they are direct soldered to our little board right here. So that just goes in. Of course, they're not plug and play, but that's fine because I don't think many people are going to be breaking this. Underneath that, we just have our pretty much all-in-one board of our, it's not our VTX, it's our F4 flight controller, 5 amp ESCs, Betaflight, OSD, all that sort of standard standard stuff you'd expect in today's quad. And then on top of that, we have our VTX. And this part is important. It's going to come locked, you know, so it locks out some certain frequencies. You can unlock it by simply holding down the button and plugging it in if you have a ham license at home. But also, it can now change milliwatts. So this one was stuck on 25 milliwatts, but now you can go 25, 100, or 200. So if you want to do a little bit further range outside, maybe you're trying to fly indoors, but you've got some more interference, you can bump up the milliwatts, get a little bit better reception. And then the last part, we still just have a standard dipole antenna, but they have the RunCam Nano. I think it's the Racer Nano or the RunCam Nano 2. This camera is gorgeous. That was one of the biggest complaints about the original EMAX TINYHAWK. People didn't like the camera very much. This bad boy absolutely destroys it when it gets the good quality image you're getting back. So overall, the components in this bad boy are a huge step up from what we used to have in the original TINYHAWK. Now moving on, let's talk about the designer thing. We'll quickly talk about the quality and the pros and cons. And then the big part, we're just gonna go and show you the flight footage, let you make up your mind for yourself. Radio, so moving on, let's talk about the design of things. So first things first, we're mainly gonna be talking about the frame. Yes, they've upgraded the components like I mentioned, but the frame inside here and how it all goes together is just, I think, a plus over this one with a few little nitpicks I've got here and there. I do love the first bit is they've increased these struts because I've got quite a lot of TINYHAWKs and these parts here, these sometimes do tend to break, but on this one, it's gonna be much more robust. It's thicker, I just think it's gonna hold up better. The frame looks better. I like how they've threaded the LEDs through there. Also, the part at the top housing our camera, you can now adjust this, so hopefully that's in shot. You can adjust this to whatever angle you like, but there's gonna be a little caveat that comes with that. So the design, I think, yeah, it is improved in terms of robustness, but I know a lot of people are straight off the bat, if you look at that, you're gonna think, gee, that's a great idea where I can have an adjustable camera, but I do have a few little qualms we'll talk about in the pros and the cons. And then moving on, talking about the quality. EMAX, I've actually personally visited their factory with all their employees, seeing how they go through the business of making their drones. They do a fantastic job. They have a huge QC program. They check everything. They just, I don't know, I was very impressed. Of all the factories I visited when I went and did a China trip about a year ago with Cal, EMAX probably had the most professional setup with how everything's going together. They are masters of quality control, all that sort of stuff. Very smart guys making it. So the quality, I think, that's why they're so successful. They make great drones, also at a great price. But that brings us on to the pros and the cons. So let's do the pros first. So it's easy to get into. We've got LEDs now. It binds up to anything. The camera is hands down significantly better than the last one. We can change the milliwatts. It can take a 1S or a 2S, which is an upgrade over the original one. It comes with a better charge. You get spare props. It can do turtle mode now, which is good. Some people are going to like to change the angle. So overall, I feel like it's, you know, there's a lot of pros on paper. Moving on, talking about the cons, and there's just a few that kind of bug me just a little bit. Number one, talking about this great camera design, and you know, it does have such an upgraded camera, but I found no matter how much I tightened down these, when I landed hard upside down, they would just become loose because you can't tighten it down enough. So when it does crash, you're going to inevitably bump your camera. It's going to go to a different angle, and that can be quite disorientating. So you might be like, there's many times I came back, my drone was pretty much at a 45-degree angle with my camera sticking straight out the top. So I don't know, yeah, I like you can change the angle, but for me there's just no way to tighten it down, so I'm probably going to end up gluing this one anyway in a fixed position. So some people might really like that you can change it, but in my flying experience, we're putting a lot of packs through it, well, you know, after a couple of crashes I've got to go and tighten it up again, and I don't think that's an ideal design. Flipping it over, and then the other one, it's getting shorter flight times. And the last con I kind of have is, I don't think this is designed for me. This is designed for beginners getting into the hobby. The tune that comes out of the box is it just felt a little bit lackluster. And I've seen some other people flying around and look at some other videos of it, and for me, it just doesn't really have the wow factor that I'm looking for with some of the other drones. When I'm bursting it out, punching the throttle, all that sort of stuff, it just feels like a fairly standard drone. I almost want to use the word sedate when it's flying around. Now that's it on the bench. We've looked at the text and the specs, the pros and the cons. We're going to go out to the field, flying around. I'm going to show you some outdoor 2S action, also some really cool action flying around indoors. But I do want to mention this before we get started. The original EMAX TINYHAWK, and this is where I have to be, I guess, I'm trying to reflect and always do better reviews for you guys and provide you with the right information. Not that I canned this one, but I didn't really get it at first. And I have since, you know, spent thousands of dollars of my own money buying TINYHAWK, showing people how to fly, all that sort of stuff. This one here, I kind of feel like it might be in the same boat, because you're going to see in the flight performance, I'm not particularly thrilled or outstanding by it, but I don't know if I'm its target market yet. So we'll have to see as time goes by. Is this one going to be another bit of a sleeper hit that I just maybe don't get on this first impressions? But that's where it's going to be up to you guys too. Watch the flight footage back, and I want to know what you think. So let's do it. Let's go have some fun in the field so you can see what I'm talking about. Fly around the TINYHAWK 2 from EMAX in 3, 2, 1. Radio out here in the field with the TINYHAWK 2. I'm pretty excited. It's a special drone, and honestly, check out the course. We're going to rip it around, see how it goes on 1S, and find out, you know, is it an improvement? What's it going to handle like? All that sort of stuff. How's the camera in low light? So let's do it. Enough rambling, have some fun, and rip it around in 3, 2, 1. Whoop. Okie dokie, here we go, on board. We're just going to jump straight into the flight footage because we've got some of this one, then we're going to go to like when we've got it on acro mode, we're in stability mode at the moment. We'll talk about the camera, the flight characteristics, and also head outdoors and fly it around on 2S so you can find out where it works, where it doesn't, its pitfall, limitations, all that sort of stuff. Now, first things first, let's look at this camera. This is a very low light situation with a lot of different strobes coming onto the screen, and I love this camera. The colors that you can see on this, and you might think, oh, they look very similar, but let me tell you, this versus some of the other cameras out there, it really makes the colors pop. You can tell the difference between greens and blues, which often the time will blend together. The flight characteristics moving around, I'm going to say it fell like a 7 out of 10 for me. I probably wanted something a little bit more. I had upped the rates and I had changed the expo a little bit, but for me, it just felt a little bit docile. Now, I don't know if that's going to be a couple of the extra grams when you're flying around on the 1S, but overall, it just, I don't know, I feel like I'm not its target audience. It's not after people who want to push their quads to the limit. That's not really who I think this is for. This is for people who might want to fly around indoors. They want something that's going to be fairly robust, and I think that's a huge selling point of this one. You might not be the best pilot. You might have trouble, you know, bouncing around off walls into stuff. You want a drone that is going to last you. This one, the frame strength is incredible. I think you're going to be very, very hard pressed to break it, and you also get a good FPV feed. But if you are a professional pilot, maybe you're taking this to Tiny Whip races or something, I don't know if this would be my first choice. So definitely it's got that weight does come at a bit of a cost. Now, one thing here, I do love an added upgrade or something. You can finally do turtle mode, which is great, so that you can go flipping it over. That makes it great. You couldn't do that on the original one, so I really like if you get stuck somewhere, flip it over, you can fly it back. That's going to save you a lot of time. And here we go. You can see these flights look a bit more wobbly or crazy because I did have it in normal acro mode there, but most of the time I'm going to say here's a good little tip. If you're doing indoor flying, for me and what a lot of my friends find as well, you're much better suited to fly around on stability mode if you're flying these Woot ones, but we're about to crash into my mate here in a second on purpose. I'm sure. Look, it was all fun and games, and these are very, very safe little crafts. But jumping outdoors, we're going to have a look right now. This is on 2S. This is when it's in acro mode, zipping around. You can see it is very easy to point and shoot. It was very stable shooting under the car like that. There's not too many drones I think I'd be able to do that with, but it has a little bit of a pop. We've got more voltage, so we should have a bit more power, but I don't know. The camera still, again, in this very, very bright environment, looks fantastic, but for me, I guess I'm not really its target audience. If you're a beginner, you want something durable that's going to take a beating, yes, you are probably going to get more mileage out of this drone than I am. For me, I guess maybe it's because I'm getting into acro more and more. I am after a little bit of that crazy sort of speed. But anyway, what do you guys think? What do you think about this footage? I think I go to line up the car again and scrape across the ground. And then the crazy part, too, I try to fly so you can see all the wires in the fence. And I was like, okay, let's see how well I can spot those. And it almost makes me look like a good pilot or something. But even though, jokes aside, it's a little bit crazy when I fly through some of those. I did it a couple of times. So here we go. I think we're going to line up for the fence, going through heaps of wire. Oh, okay, yep, okay, that one must have been a fluke. Let's do it again. And we went through there. So I don't know. Overall, still a lot of fun. Probably just, I don't know, different to what I might have been expecting. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Rightio, so there it is. There's my review of the EMAX TINYHAWK 2, and I'm a little bit on the fence about this one. Yes, I'm probably not its target audience. I've been flying a lot of drones, and I want my drones to be just bullets out of the gate and ripping around really hard hairpins, all that sort of stuff. That's not the audience that EMAX is going after, and I understand not everybody wants to fly like I do. Some people just want a nice, easy beginner drone they can get. It's going to be more robust. They care about a quality camera. They want to put some LEDs on there, just have some fun when they're zipping around. They are not hardcore whoop racers or anything like that. So for those people, and they want the options of 1S or 2S, those people are going to absolutely enjoy a craft like this. For me, it was just probably a little bit toned down when I took it out of the box, and the first time I fired it up, it just, on those beginner settings, indoors, yeah, it was stable. There was nothing wrong with it flying around, but it didn't have that wow factor. And then when I took it outdoors, I did have the tiny bit of oscillation as well, and I don't think it's going to be made so much for an outdoor drone. And it is a little bit heavier, so it's got a bit more to cart around. So I don't know. I'm on the fence. What do you guys think? Drop your comments down below. If you haven't seen that EMAX Interceptor video, go check that out, because that was probably, I think, the best cheap product of the year out of all FPV products. Those things are absolutely just insane amounts of fun. Hats off to EMAX, because I know they're always thinking about getting people into the hobby. And just let me know, what do you think? Is this the sort of drone you'd be after? Are you a beginner? Are you an expert? Would you give this as a gift to somebody to get flying, or would you take this to your next whip race? I don't know. I'm just one pilot's opinion, so I'd love to know, what do you guys think about it? Because I guarantee you, EMAX is going to read those comments, and they take feedback very, very seriously. They listen to what people want in the community, and they're always striving to push to make the drones that you want to fly. So anyway, on that, subscribe for more FPV related content, and as always, Merry Christmas. Happy flying.